On February 8th, 2021, the world lost an icon. Legendary vocalist Mary Wilson, founding member of the Supremes, perhaps the ultimate girl group, was found dead in her Las Vegas home. With us today is her former assistant, Nicholas Stiles. Nicholas is going to chat with us about his relationship with Mary, whom he considered both a friend and a mentor, and how he came to meet her, how that relationship evolved, culminating into finding her body on February 8th. Nicholas, thank you so much for being with us today. Tell me a bit about just what was going on in your head on February 8th, because I can only imagine what was supposed to be just a routine work day and discovering that your employer and your friend and your mentor had passed away. I mean, that in itself is probably enough. But then on top of that, I mean, this is a woman who means so much to so many people globally, and having to tell this devastating news to her family. What was going on in your mind at the beginning of all of that?
It was like, especially having to call her daughter, our daughter, this was the first time, Monday was the first day me and her had spoke on the phone. We knew of each other, but we had never spoken to each other.
The Monday being the day that she died, okay.
February 8th, yeah. So that was just like really hard, like, how do I tell someone I don't know that their mom passed away? I really can't put it into words, or what I was thinking. Because when I called her and I told her, and I heard her voice crack, it was like, damn, just told her.
Yeah, so what did Mary personally mean to you?
Everything. When you think of has done so much for not only history and itself, music history, but Black history. And being that person, one, knew you by name, was a mentor to you, a friend, it was like, wow. Definitely, Mary was an encourager. She reminded me of, or like a grandma, who always had all this advice that no one would listen to. So, I'm sure you have that family member who always has something to say, whether it be good or bad. And I'm sorry, that took a while.
Take your time.
She's really just like a big source of encouragement. Before I met her, just seeing the Supremes on TV was like, wow. My family back home, my great grandma, my grandma, and my great aunt used to dress up and wear like matching clothes and matching suits or coordinating outfits, whatever. So the glamour part I had saw, but never really saw on TV. We have people like Beyonce who would dress up from time to time in a gown or something, but there was something about seeing Diana, Mary, and Florence that was just like, wow, something different.
So how old were you when you first saw them on TV and said, wow, this is it. I love these people. They're amazing.
I was 8. At that time, we didn't have cable. So that was around the time when I don't know if you remember this, but they were switching over to like antennas and everything like that.
Yeah, they were moving to digital from analog. Yes.
Yeah, I remember the only channels we could get were like basic, network channels, like 3, 6, 8. So I remember going through the channels, going through the 4 channels we had, and PBS had this DVD stuff for the television show, and I had been a real big fan of Tina Turner. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll see Tina Turner on there. So I'm sitting there watching it, and I had always liked watching the Time Life commercials and those type of things. So I was watching it. At the end of the program, they introduced the Supremes. I already knew who Diana Ross was for 2 reasons. The Wiz, my family's last name is Ross. I had thought we were related. When I had discovered that, I was like, oh, okay. That was actually when I discovered the Supremes. I went around telling everybody Diana Ross was cousin. So I was watching the program, and they introduced the Supremes and they give the backstory, of them with Sullivan. They were on the show more than 16 times, more than anyone except for the Beatles, and they had 12 #1 hits and all. This is background of the Supremes. So the song that comes on was "You Can't Hurry Love." All of a sudden, you see Diana emerge, and she's singing. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I said it was a group. There's only one person I see, and then the camera flips and you see the other two, Mary and Florence. I said, oh, okay, I see. And so when it flipped and you see all three in one shot. You see the full figure of the dress they had on and everything. It was just like, wow. At that time, sequins and all of that had already interested me. So seeing them in sequins and the wigs and the makeup was like, okay, I like this. I don't know what it is that I like about it, but I like this. After watching that, I started watching more. I got on YouTube and started looking up more. So I discovered a few more performances and discovered they had more dresses. I was like, wow, this is what I was meant to see. At that time, I had wanted to be a fashion designer, but I was really big into sketching and designing clothes, and everything I had designed were dresses that looked like stuff that they wore, but I had never seen them before. So I felt like when I saw them, I found my muse.
Absolutely wonderful. That's a wonderful story. So where did you grow up exactly?
Lorain, Ohio.
Got it. So you're close to you're in between Sandusky and you're in between Cleveland. Not the largest cities in the world, but cities nonetheless. So talk to me.
Right.
So you're 8 years old. You want to be a fashion designer. Were you studying in things as well? And so, it sounds like you were seeking out all of these things on YouTube and watching. I love that you're watching the old Time Life.
My mom used to always say that.
The old Time Life infomercials.
My mom would say that's how she would get me to go to sleep, is put those on.
That's wonderful. Were you studying fashion design or were you just
No,
kind of
it was just,
seriously?
at the time, That's So Raven was a really big show on Disney Channel. No, I wasn't studying as a fashion design at that time. I was more so.
Did you find like a kind of a community of other folks who were visual artists and wanted to be visual artists or maybe wanted to go into design of some kind? Like I, for example, went to an arts school. So, most of my circle, starting when I was a kid, were all folks who wanted to go into visual arts or performing arts. And we all had that shared desire, right? And that shared love and also that shared experience to bond with. And so much of our lives centered around the arts, our social lives, our educational lives. Did you have a group of like-minded individuals?
People like fashion or whatever, but at the time I don't remember ever meeting anyone until I got older.
So how old were you when Mary Wilson first came into your life?
18 or 19.
18 or 19? Okay, so you had graduated high school.
And how it happened was, I was going through Facebook. Backstory on another thing I didn't mention. I have ran a Supremes fan club for my generation. Now it'll be 7 years.
Wait, you ran a Supremes fan club? Well, no. I want you to walk me through this because this is so fascinating for me. Everyone always used to say to me when I was young, because I came up, doing musical theater and on like the cabaret circuit and singing standards and such. And everyone older than me would always say, oh my goodness, you were born in the wrong era. But hearing you speak, it seems like you should have been born in the 80s with the Time Life and the fan club. Because when I think about a fan club, I remember being a kid and, you'd have your mothers write out a check for $15 or $20 and you put it in the lick your envelope and put it into the post office and you'd get your newsletters back once a week. And so I always thought that the fan club, in terms of how I remember it and how so many people remember it, really wasn't a thing. So was this like a Facebook group or how is it structured?
It started off on Instagram, and I had started it because I had seen so many different Michael Jackson and Beyonce and Nicki Minaj fan clubs and pages on Instagram. And I was like, well, where's their Supremes? There was no one for Motown really besides like. So I'm like, well, why don't I just make a page specifically for Supremes? That ended up turning into a profile with almost 7,000 followers. And
That's fantastic. Is it still up? Is it still active?
no, I was told by Mary's publicist that I need to take the page down.
Got it. So the publicist told you to end the. So was this after you began working with her, or is this long ago when you were first?
This was after.
Okay. All right. So before we get there, right? Before we go there and we start talking about just your time with Mary actually in Las Vegas and working for her and interacting with her publicist, her daughter, and the rest of her team, how did you end up meeting Mary Wilson?
So I was going through Facebook, pictures of the Supremes. That's when I came across a text message thread between Mary and another fan. And the fan is an older fan, so they forgot to cross her number out. So I won't mention the name.
Wait a second. So I want to understand this. So you're the number one Supremes fan in the world, or at least in Generation Z.
Right.
You're surfing Facebook. You
Mm-hmm.
come across a comment thread where she's actually given her phone number to someone and it wasn't deleted.
Right.
So you texted her and said, "Hi, Miss Wilson. I'm your number one fan. Merry Christmas."
No, I just said Merry Christmas. Simply just Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Just
so you
to
didn't even agree to say who you were?
I was scared. I had the number for a while, and I was like, what do I do? And I was like, let me finally just text the number and see if I get a response. So being that it was Christmas, I said Merry Christmas. And like I said, I got the response of, I don't know who this is, but Merry Christmas to you and your family. Touch Mary Wilson, or MW. So January comes. I can't remember the exact date, but I was starting a lip gloss line, trying to get into making makeup and things like that. So I text her and asked, would you mind being a sampler for me? She said, call me. That was it. Call me. So I called the number and she said, hello. I said, this is Mary Wilson. All she had to say was hello. And I knew it was her. This is really Mary Wilson. And she started talking. She's like, give me a minute because I have a little cold. So she started coughing a little bit. I have a little cold, but I was like, okay. And I said, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a really big. That's when I said, I'm a really big fan. My name is Stiles, and she was like, really welcoming. Never asked me, how did you get my number? Who are you? Who sent you? Nothing like that. It was like she knew me this whole time.
That is so fascinating. And it's also so generous. I know,
Right.
I mean,
I would have been like, who are you? How did you get my number?
No, totally. I give you kudos for even having the gall to do that. Because I think about people who and I've met a lot of people, but there are still people to this day, if all of a sudden I came across their number and there was no personal introduction, I don't know that I could just straight up cold call them and say, hello, how are you?
Right.
Let's be friends. What was your initial conversation? You say, hi, I'm your number one fan, and I want to tell you that you're wonderful. And she says, oh, okay, baby, wonderful. So how long did this conversation last, and what did you talk about?
On the phone, maybe 45 minutes, maybe. I was trying to talk about the Supremes, and she said, no, I want to talk about you. I want to know who you are. And then she's like, well, what is it that you're getting into? And I told her, I eventually want to go into making lipsticks and eyeshadow. It's like, okay, she was like, well, I can't offer you any money. And I was like, no. I was like, no, I wasn't calling for any money. I really just wanted to.
She's like, let's be certain. Let's be clear.
I was like, no, I wasn't calling for any money. I was more so calling to see if, reaching out to see if you could be a sampler. I can do that. If you would like, I could be your mentor. And I said, okay, yeah, of course. So I sent them, didn't hear from her for a few months. I would see pictures of her. Remember, I seen this picture of her in Florida. And I was like, that looks like the lipstick that I had, gave her. But being that red lipstick was always what she wore, I was like, maybe it isn't. Maybe, she just didn't. Maybe she didn't try it or whatever. Like I said, I didn't hear anything from her. I asked her, I texted her and asked her, how do you like it? Nothing, no response. I get a phone call out the blue from her. And she's like, I just wanted to let you know, I've been seeing your messages, but I've just been really busy with this tour. I'm over in the UK now. I just want to let you know I love your lip gloss. A few things we have to talk about it, but overall, it's a great product. I was like, oh, thank you. She said, I'll call you later once I get back to the US. I'm like, okay. So she did call back, and we talked, and she told me, tube had broke and busted everywhere. It was like, I don't know if that's because of the plane pressure or what that was, but, look into that before you send it out to anyone and start selling them. Look and make sure that, they can withstand travel. I'm like, okay, thank you for letting me know. Like, I hope you don't think I'm being mean or anything. I'm like, no, this is what I asked for.
So at this time, were you actually selling your makeup as well, or were you kind of just using her as like a celebrity R&D to kind of develop it?
Actually, that was my plan of, having her be my actual promoter and do my photo shoots and all of that. But, we didn't get to that point.
So tell me, what was it like? I mean, just going back to that first phone call, right? Because this to me, even still now, sounds so incredibly surreal. It's like, hello, and it's like, hey, and then, yeah, I'll mentor you. So you hang up the phone from that first call. You now have spoken to this woman that you've idolized for the last 10 years. She says, hey, call me, and here's my address. And she says, hey, I'm happy to be your mentor. What's the first thing you did as soon as you hung up the phone?
I ran across the street. At that time, I was staying with my cousin. And I ran across the street to my great-grandma's house. And I said, guess what? That what? She said, I just got told Mary Wilson. Now, everybody in my family knows I'm a big Supremes fan. They were like, well, we need to get you to see Diana Ross, because every time I try to go see her, something would happen. So they were like, we need to get to see Diana Ross. So when I told my grandma that, she had the biggest smile on her face. Now, at that time, she had started her process of declining. I ran over to her, and I was like, yeah, I just talked to Mary Wilson, and she's going to try to lip gloss for me and all that. Her whole mood went from feeling down to now being really happy at that moment. So September comes, and when I saw she's in Cleveland, I was like, what? She's coming to Cleveland? What is? I never heard of this place. I didn't know where it was at. Nothing. When I looked it up, I saw the tickets were like $15. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and meet Mary Wilson. I remember I called her the night before. She was in Washington, D.C. accepting an award from some organization. I can't remember. And I had asked her, I said, hey, I see that you're doing this, masterclass type of thing. And she was like, no, it's not that type of event. It's just a real casual event. Like, so it's not a formal, I don't have to dress up or anything. She said, no, just come real casual. So I get there, I look, everyone's dressed up. And even the people who had jeans on, had maybe a jeans and a sweater on or jeans and a blazer, but everyone was dressed up. And I'm like, I felt so out of place. Mary comes out. That's all I could do is just look like, that's really Mary Wilson.
Your jaw totally dropped.
Yes. So I'm looking at her. We made eye contact, but she just kept walking around, talking to everybody else. And I'm like, well, maybe she doesn't know who I am. Maybe I should get up and say something. But I was too nervous. So that's when she looked and she said, are you Nicholas? I said, yeah. She said, come here. Look what I have on. She pointed to her lips. I'm like, hey. And she started laughing. And she was like, I have the lip gloss on. And I'm like, I can't talk. And she started laughing again. And she's like, well, we'll talk after the show.
So that was December of 2018. I'm sorry, September of 2018. So talk to me about just what happened between then that led up to you actually coming out to Las Vegas and working for her.
We met again. in July of 2019. June of 2019. The Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in Detroit had their annual weekend, and she every year would host the award show. Me and my friend drove up from Lorraine to Detroit, because Detroit's only 2 hours away from Lorraine. So we drove from Detroit to Lorraine, and I told her, I'll be there. I walk in, and she's like, "Hi." She's like, "I saw your text."
So what did you end up doing for the rest of the evening? Did you have a chance to chat with her? Did you end up mingling? Did you meet anyone else?
I met another girl group singer. I met 2 people. I met Martha Reeves, and I met another girl group singer named Cal Street. Her group was vocalist.
Yeah, of course. Oh my goodness. So you were like having like a time life wet dream over here in Detroit. So now this is in summer of 2019. So you moved here to Vegas in January of this year?
Yeah.
January of this. Okay, so you clearly kept in touch with Mary after January or summer of 2019. So did you guys speak frequently, or did you?
I remember I called her the next time we had spoke, from what I remember, was the night after she did Dance with the Stars, her first night on the show. I called her while she was at the airport, and she was like, I was like, "I know you're on your way to the next show." She had a show after she did Dance with the Stars. She had a show to do in, if I'm not mistaken, New York. And I remember I called her. She was at the airport. I said, I just wanted to, congratulate you. This is your Mary Wilson moment for my generation. And, I'm just very proud of you. It's like, thank you. She said, this moment isn't really for just me. It's for Diane and Flo. And for those who don't know, she calls Diana Ross Diane. So that's what her is. She said, this isn't just my moment. This is for both Diane and Flo. I remember thinking.
So how did you coming to work for her happen?
So I moved.
And actually, before we get there, speaking of Diane, since you were like in the inner circle, did you ever get to the bottom of like what the whole feud was about?
Of course, I've heard, talking to fans, I've heard different stories. But when me and Mary talked about Diana, I remember I was telling her about me getting into doing drag. And I was like, yeah, I have a few wigs that look like yours. And she said, oh, really, you do? And then a few wigs that look like Diana's. And she went to the next subject. And I was like, oh, she really wrote that one off. Did not mention anything. But I don't know if it was shade. I think it was probably more so to see. I feel it was more of she did it to eliminate us talking about her.
So your story is you didn't get the scoop from the horse's mouth.
No, but I will say this. If you're the person I don't like, I'm not hanging pictures of them up in my house. Paintings of them by themselves. I'm going to hang them up. So I will say that.
So there were paintings of Diana hanging up in her house. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But I mean, I'm sure if you have someone that you can't stand, or you have that's an enemy for you, or whatever, you're not going to put pictures of them up. Or
I might use it as a dartboard,
right? or firewood.
Exactly. So talk to me about. So you have this relationship, and you're still talking throughout the year, talking throughout COVID, right? Shutdown happens. You're still chatting with her. So explain to me how, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, did the conversation get to, oh my goodness, Nicholas, you know what? You should fly out here to Las Vegas, move in with me, and be my assistant.
Where that came in at, a mutual friend of ours contacted me and was like, Mary needs an assistant. I'm gonna tell Mary that you're available to be her assistant. 3 days later, I'm laying in the bed and I get an email. Hey, Nicholas, I was wanting to talk to you about a position of assistant. And it went into some other further details, but that was the main part of the email. And then at the end of it, it was call me.
And
okay.
This is an email. This is an email from Mary
to help her with social media, like her Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the YouTube channel that she had started, and a few other things around her house. You know, sending emails. We were going to go over. She knew I was into makeup, so we were going to go over looks, and there was a few things I had told her that I would recommend for her look-wise. So
such as,
I thought, her wigs, not a shady statement, but a few of those wigs were not good. And I told this to her. Those wigs they were cheap. They look cheap. I can help you find hairstylists, or I can make wigs myself. So, okay, thank you. That was her statement. Thank you. The next week, over the next few weeks, we were just talking more. We talked almost every day. I remember one conversation in particular. I was going through it was the beginning of December. I was going through a little squabble with the guy I was talking to. And the advice that she had gave me, I texted her because a friend of hers that I knew from the city I'm from, was in the hospital. So I texted her, I said, do you know such and such? And she said, yeah. How do you know them? And I was like, well, her daughter, that's a mutual family friend. And I was saying, her daughter contacted me, wanted me to tell you she's in the hospital. She just had a stroke. And she called the daughter, and she was like, well, how are you doing? And I said, I'm okay, I guess. And she was like, was there anything you want to talk about? I said, I'm here anytime you need to talk. And I was like, I talked to Mary Wilson about relationship advice. I was like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I'll call you. I said, call me. I was like, okay, I'll call you when you get the phone. So I called her, and she said, hey, so what's going on? I told her the situation. And she said, wait a minute, how old is this guy? And I told her, he's 28. She said, how old are you? And I said, 22. She said, oh no, leave him alone. Leave him alone. And focus on bettering yourself. I'm like, yeah, you have a point. You have a good point. Don't worry too much about it. She said, you'll be in Vegas with me soon. This is why I wanted you to come out here, away from all of this. I remember a few things you had told me in the past about your depression and things like that I want to take you away from. So that was her whole thing of when she thought about me as her assistant, from what she's told me, she thought about me as her assistant. She felt that me coming out to Las Vegas would help me help better myself, as well as help better her, whatever she needed help with her.
Totally. So when did you guys agree that you would be working with her?
November 5th.
November 5th of last year, of 2020. Okay. So on what day? So what exactly was the arrangement? You were going to relocate to Las Vegas. You were going to live with her. You weren't going to live with her. Were you going to be working full time? Were you only going to be working a few days a week? Was she going to help you? Were you going to kind of be helping her out while you kind of got yourself situated there and found other employment as well? What was the original agreement?
Original agreement was I could start from Ohio. And so I'll start working from Ohio. And then once I get ready to leave, whenever I'm ready to leave, come up to Vegas, let her know. But I would start working for her part-time in Ohio. And once I moved, the thing was, she did tell me, she said, I can't afford to pay you a lot. And I said, that's fine. I would do it. I didn't tell her this, but in my head, I was thinking I would do it free. I really would have done it for free, which is what I did.
But so working with her was more than just reaching a personal goal and working with one of your personal idols. It also gave you sort of a sense of accomplishment, and you kind of could look back at your brother and just kind of the people at home and say, oh my goodness, look, I'm doing something, and I'm doing it, and I'm something that I dreamed of doing when I was 8 years old, begging my mother to order me Time Life.
The funny thing about this, my grandma had said when I was a kid, "Oh, you're gonna meet," and like I said, Diana Ross is always the one everyone mentions first. So you're gonna meet Diana Ross, and you're gonna work with her, and gonna be, design clothes for her, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. I'm looking at her like, okay, how parents or family members boost you up, kids up or whatever. That's what that was. I felt like, oh, okay, yeah, if she said it, oh, okay, maybe it's gonna happen.
So you're in Las Vegas, you've made the move, you're eating pananis with Mary Wilson at the Starbucks.
Because
so you guys,
I know what we're talking about now.
so you're bonded, and she's asking you like what it is you're looking to do. So what's the game plan, you guys, when you guys are leaving this Starbucks? So what's the game plan? Have you articulated to her what it is you're looking to do, and has she now articulated what it is she's looking for you to do? And you guys are like, all right, so now be at my house tomorrow at 1 and let's get cracking? Or
well, there's a little more, because we actually had left Starbucks, and there was behind the Starbucks is like a little like restaurant with outdoor seating. So we sat there and ate. And that's where we discussed more. And I remember she got out the car, she said, look, I lost so much weight. She stood up and she opened her little jacket up. And she's like, I lost so much weight. I said, okay, I see you skinny. And she said, yes. She said, this quarantine really has been good for me. And I said, well, it's done anything but help me gain weight. And she said, yeah, I could tell.
Hashtag supreme shade.
Oh, she had threw so much shade at me.
So this to me is just so surreal, because you have this amazing opportunity that you could have only dreamed about. I mean, I've had these moments where like I've met people who like I idolized when I was a kid. And in those moments I say, God, if only I had a time machine so I could go back to like 8-year-old me and say, dude, you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, so this had to have been that kind of a moment. So you start working on the 18th, and she passes away, what, 3 weeks later? Is it a full 3 weeks? So you start working on that.
I didn't work with her for a full 3 weeks because I had to go back to Ohio. I was living with her away. And that was a sudden thing too.
Wait, who passed away? I'm sorry.
Who I was living with before I moved out here passed away.
Oh my goodness.
I just talked to her that same day that she passed away. I just talked to her. She was like,
No, I was going to say, so how long did you have to go back? When did you go back to Ohio?
I stayed for a week. I stayed for a week.
Got it. So you come back to Las Vegas. And so what day did you get back to Las Vegas and start like, okay, I'm really here now this time. I promise. Let's get to work.
Called me Friday. She was like, well, I've been waiting for you. Where are you at? She had an appointment. I can't remember who it was for, but she had a doctor. So she's like, I've been waiting for you. After my appointment, I've been waiting for you. Where are you at? I said, girl, I'm home asleep. And she said, what? You're supposed to come over. I said, oh, yeah, that is right. I forgot. I said, well, I can still come over. I mean, I'm up now.
Hold on. Well, so wait. You've had the job for 2.5 weeks. You're gone for a week and some days. Then your first day back, you said, oh, yeah, I guess I am supposed to report for duty. So you're supposed to be there. So you said, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to be there. So then what happened?
Well, it wasn't planned. She called me and told me I was supposed to come that day. I didn't know. She was like, okay, I just want to tell you something. I know I told you to give me 6 months or so to see if you work out and connect. But she said, after today, I realized that me and you are going to work out. So Monday is your official first day as my assistant.
And that was it. Did you talk to her at all on Sunday?
Now, I did speak to one of her friends, and one of her friends did say that they heard from her daughter that they were the last call in or out. That was about 2:30 Monday. But other than that, I don't know if I didn't speak to her.
You didn't speak to her. Do you wait? Do you know if anyone spoke to her on that Sunday?
That one friend, that's all I know.
Oh, the one friend spoke to her on Sunday.
That's what
Got it.
he said that from what her daughter has told him, he is the last call in around.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so let's talk about the day. So this is the Saturday. So you're, I'm sure, on cloud nine, new chapter of your life. You're in Vegas. So you wake up on Monday. You're supposed to start your day. You know, like, you're my new assistant. Everything's wonderful. So walk me through the events of your day on Monday, February 8th.
So I called her, no answer. That's about 11 a.m. From there, I then called the mutual friend who I said, we would talk to or whatever, who referred her to me for the job. And told her I was available. I called him, and he had said, I called her too. We're supposed to have a meeting at 12, her time, our time here, and she's not answering the phone either. And I was like, well, that's weird. He was like, well, don't think anything into it. He had got to know me well enough to know that I'm an overthinker on things. So he was like, no, don't think anything into it. Maybe she's still asleep. So I picked up the mail. I texted her. I said, hey, I just picked up the mail. I'm on my way to your house now. Still no response, but I'm like, well, I'm almost there, so not really for her to respond. I called her daughter because I needed the gate code. The gate code I had never worked. I called her daughter back because I'm knocking on the door and no answer. And I'm calling, no answer. I'm like, hey, can you call your mom and see if she'll answer for you? Because I'm calling and knocking on the door, she's not answering. She's like, okay, I will. So she called. She called twice. I can hear the phone ringing outside, and no answer. So she called me back and she said, hey, she might still be asleep. She's been sleeping in a lot lately. So I was like, well, what do you do? You mean go home or you mean stay and she wakes up? Or she said, no, just go home and I'll call you. I'll call her and tell her that you came and she can go from there. I said, okay. So while I'm waiting for my Uber to come back and pick me up, we're sitting, me and her daughter are sitting there talking about my employment, which is the conversation we had back in November. But being that I'm not thinking anything is going to go wrong or anything was happening wrong, I'm like, okay, it's never the wrong time to talk about it. So we're sitting there talking, and she's like, well, I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know who Nicholas was or where you're from. So she told me to tell me about yourself. And I told her about me and how I met Mary and how, I got the job and what she said. I said, okay. She said, well, what are you asking? What did you mean? Did you and my mom talk about money? And I said, yeah, we talked about, I told her we agreed upon $1,500 a month. This is what I asked for. I said, if you can't do $1,500 a month, at least help me with a car payment. I know that if I have a car, one, I'm spending a lot of money on Ubers. And I know if I have a car, I will be able to do like DoorDash like I was doing in Ohio. Do DoorDash, Uber Eats, something like that. She said, okay, that's fine. That sounds fair. That sounds fair. I said, okay. About 2 hours later, she called back and said, hey, can you go back over to my mom's house? We're starting to get concerned because she's not answering the phone. Got to the house, knocked on the door, no answer. By that time, I figured something was wrong. And I was like, well, what you want me to do? She said, well, go around to the back of the window. So I looked in the bedroom window. The bed was completely made. The bathroom light was on. The drawer that was open when I left Saturday was still open in the bathroom. And that struck me as odd because Mary, from what she's told me, from what I've gathered of her, she's a neat person, likes things in a particular way. And leaving drawers and things open like that were not in that particular way of how she liked it. I told her, I said, I see this. said, well, look through the living room window. I looked through the, there's a patio window that's connected to our kitchen. I looked through there, patio door. I looked through the patio door, didn't see anything because it says in it. And I looked through the living room window by her chair, which is right by her chair. I looked, I was like, well, I don't see anything. She said, did you get close and look? I said, no. I said, I will. So I got closer. I'm like, well, I don't see her, but I see her feet. And her feet are hanging off the end of the ottoman, which was connected to the chair. Well, not connected, but in front of the chair. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, I said, you know how when you lay down in your sleep, your feet are pointing up? Hers were pointing downward, like she fell into the ottoman or something.
Like she's on her stomach.
Yeah.
Did you attempt to did you bam on the window or do anything to kind of attempt to
get her? When I looked at the window and I saw her feet, I did bang on the window, and I told her that didn't help her anything. So she said, I'll call the realtor and I'll call you back. She called back, said, well, the realtor will be about an hour or so bringing you the key, so just call the police. So I called the police. The police, I explained to them what I saw, and they came.
So before we move on to that, at this point, so she gets off the phone with you, and you're just standing there in Mary Wilson's backyard, and you see her feet. She's face down on a sofa. She's not responding to any of your knocks or calls. What's going on in your head at this moment?
At that point, I called my mom and told her what I think happened. She's like, you think she, passed away? And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't know. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm fine, but I don't know. So then her daughter calls back. I'm like, Mom, I gotta call back because here's her daughter. And she's like, okay. So she calls back. She said, hey, the realtor will be an hour bringing you the keys. So you call the police, or you call the police. And I wasn't going to do anything without her. Okay. I was thinking that's why I said it was a coincidence I got her number Saturday, because had I not had her number, I would have just went home. I called them. I explained to them what I saw.
Yeah. Are you, just out of curiosity, in this moment, I've never, knock on wood, had to call 911 in an emergency situation like this. Are you still in your mind kind of in celebrity assistant mode, being discreet, or are you oh my goodness, I'm at Mary Wilson's house and we need someone here now?
They did ask what her name was. I said Mary Wilson. I didn't tell them this is Mary Wilson from the Supremes, and this is right. I didn't say any of that. The police, ambulance, and the fire department come. But they someone else pointed a flashlight in the window, and when he pointed the flashlight in the window, he pointed exactly to her face. That's when I saw her face, and she looked like she was asleep, no sign of distress or anything like that. She looked like she was asleep. So I'm thinking okay, going back to that mindset of thinking the best of the situation. It's okay, maybe she is still asleep. Maybe she's just in this deep sleep. But when they saw her face, they went and said, okay, we're going to try to go into the house now. They're knocking on the door with the axe. Oh, Lord, she's going to wake up and cuss everybody out for banging on her door with this axe and wake her up at her sleep.
You're I am so fired right now.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, oh, she's going to wake up and I'm going to get it. I'm going to be fired. I'm oh my gosh. He comes out 15 minutes later and says, sorry for your loss, you did pass away. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, Mom, I gotta call you back. So I called my mom back and I said, hey, she said, hey, what they say? And I said, she did pass. And she was like, she didn't say anything. Her voice cracked and I could hear her crying. And I'm like, oh, this is what I was trying to avoid. Her husband picked up the phone and said, Nicholas, we're sorry, we're going to call you back. I don't know. This is not what I thought. I mean, I knew she was older, but I didn't think that this was going to happen this soon. So I don't know what to think. That was kind of it. The police, they came out again. Another personnel came out. I don't remember if it was the police or who it was, but came out and said, sorry for your loss. The music industry has suffered a big loss. I said, damn it, he knows who she is. I said, hey, Nicholas, I just heard the news. This is Jay Swartz, Mary's publicist. And I said, hey, and I told her, he said, if anyone asks you any questions, don't talk to no one, don't say anything. And I said, no, I know, I didn't think, I wouldn't have done it anyway. So I wouldn't have known.
Did you tell him that you realized, oh, the emergency team knows who they are or who she is?
No. Mm-hmm. I didn't mention it because it didn't pop in my head. But the police officer was still asking me questions about Mary as far as, well, what's her medical history? And the publicist had heard her asking these questions, and he was like, what is he asking you? And he was like, put him on the phone. So he started answering the questions, like, you are not to ask him any questions. And I was happy he said that, because I told the police officer, I don't know anything. I can't give you any of her medical history. I can't give you any of that because I don't know. Right then, her daughter had called again. So I answered the phone call, and her daughter was asking me questions about, will anything else happen? And I said, no, Jay just called. And he answered a few questions for the police. And I was like, do you want me to stay? And my godbrother's on his way, so he can go home. So what I did was, I stayed till her godbrother had got there. Mary's godson had got there. And I can't remember what his name is, but I stayed till we got there. And I asked him, I said, are you Marla Gibbs' son? Because I know Mary and Marla Gibbs are best friends. I remember Mary telling me, oh, here's a picture of my son, Pedro, and, my godson, who's Marla Gibbs' son. And I asked him, I said, are you Marla Gibbs' son? And she said, he laughed and he said, no, that's our other friend. And he said, we all grew up together. He was on the phone with Marla Gibbs' son, and he was saying, telling him what happened. By that time, when he called Marla Gibbs' son had already knew the situation. I didn't think of anything at the time. Mind you, I only had found her maybe an hour ago, maybe. And that was that part of the situation.
Wow. So that's a lot over the course of a 2 hour of what you think is going to be like just a normal day. And, your first day after, like, she's like, yeah, we're going to work together really, really well. So you get home, like, what do you do? Or where's your mind at after?
So I was sitting there crying and looking at plane tickets back to Ohio. I'm like, well, my whole point of coming out here was to work for her. Now I don't have a job, so I got to go back to Ohio. But then I thought about it, like, well, the whole point of me being out here was to better myself. So maybe I'll just figure out what to do, out here. I go in there, sit on the couch, and my cousin's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I go sit on the couch. I get another phone call from the publicist. This one wasn't as nice as the first one. He's like, I'm on the other line with Terkessa. I want to make sure she hears me tell you this, or has heard me tell you this. Didn't I tell you not to speak to anyone? Like, I hadn't spoken to anyone. What are you talking about? He was like, well, it's out. Everyone knows that she's gone, and we told you not to speak to anyone. He was the only person there that knew her. And I'm like, I didn't tell anyone. He was like, so you didn't tell anyone? I said, no, I didn't call anyone at all. He's like, well, how did it get out? I don't know. I said, well, I did tell my mom. Why would you tell your mom? I'm like, because I was at the house by myself. So she was on the phone with you when you were at the house? And I was like, yeah. He was like, is she a fan? And I said, no. She's like, is he? She was like, he was like, is she hit up to any fans? And I said, no, she's not. Well, from this moment on, do not tell anyone at all. And he mentioned a name specifically, not to tell that name. I'm like, okay, you know,
Is that person a reporter, or is that person like someone who like you mutually know from the Mary Wilson universe?
Mary Wilson universe, yeah. He was like, if anyone texts you or calls you, asks how you're doing, you're fine. Don't make it seem like it's anything out of the ordinary. Well, what I found out was it had got around.
I imagine that everybody who was on that emergency response team, as soon as they got back into their car, called somebody, maybe not the press, but somebody that they love and are close to. And, you know, I mean,
when I was in the car, the police officer, because he told me, he was like, well, you have a ride home? I said, well, I am waiting on a friend. He's like, well, if you want to sit in the car, in my car, you can, and, you know, because it is cold out here. So I sat in this car, and I could hear him talking to someone. He was like, you know, I just want to let you know I love you. So I don't know who he was talking to. I don't know if he told you about the situation, but I do know he called someone. He's like, I just want to let you know I'm responding to he's like, he did say, I'm responding to a death, and there's no family here at all.
After that last call, where, you know, who did you speak to? I didn't speak to anyone. Well, please don't speak to anyone, specifically the person who shall remain nameless. Was that kind of the end of your Mary Wilson story, or did you end up speaking to the daughter or the publicist again? Did you ever?
I thought it was going to be the end. I thought it was going to be the end, and I called the next day. I called the publicist, and I said, "Hey, I just want to know. I know you had told me not to speak to you. I just want to make sure it's, you know, if there is anything you want me to say, you don't want me to say." And this is what I said on the phone. I said, I'm calling to see if there's anything you want me to say or don't want to say. Or if anyone asks any questions, you know, what should I avoid talking about? He said, why would I ask you to talk to anyone? I'm like, because I was there. And he was like, well, you don't know anything. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about what happened with her. He was like, none of us know what happened with her. I'm like, yeah, I know. None of us know what happened. And he was like, so you're not answering any questions. I said, well, I mean, I'm sure they're going to ask who found her. He said, you are not to answer any questions about the situation at all. I said, well, did you ever find out who said anything? And he said the family opened their mouth and said something. I was like, well, yeah, I didn't. I said, I didn't say anything. He's like, I know. I was like, I know you didn't say anything. Like, I know that now. Never apologized, but that was the last time me and him spoke. But in between then, I had spoken with her daughter.
Tell me about that conversation.
Not on the phone, but through text. And I had said, you know, I'm sending my thoughts and my love to you. This is a few days after. This was that same week. I'm sending my love and my thoughts to you. Just wanted to let you know if there's anything you need, any assistance to anything, let me know.
Did she respond?
Responded. It took her a few days, but she responded, said, you know, we're still in disbelief, but thank you, Nicholas. I will. Thank you, Nicholas. I will. The next time I text her, again, maybe it was like a week later, a week or two after that, I text her again. I said, hey, just want to let you know, I don't know if you do or not, but I am still in Vegas. So, you know, if there's anything you need from me, let me know. I'm looking forward to hear from you. She responded back a week later and said, you know, she said something in the beginning about, you know, still being like, you know, shocked, and, you know, the fans, you know, have been like kind of overwhelming with the love and support and all that. She said, then she went into that, but that wasn't really about me. That was more about them. Then she went into, if you have anything of my mom's, especially the mail you picked up that day, drop it off the P.O. box. Take care of yourself.
So you know what? Maybe you did have an angel on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Mary was supposed to come into your life, and
Right.
that was the catalyst. That was what it was for. I
Right.
mean, I think that that's wonderful, especially as you go on and do, new things and amazing things, that this brief moment, was and can be the catalyst for all of that. And the fact that it's so full circle, going back to your time with the Time Life, I think is just a really awesome and amazing story. Well, listen, Nicholas, it was so wonderful getting acquainted with you, and thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see I can't wait to see you around town and see what you're going to do. Welcome to Las Vegas.
Thank you.